Cloudbot is everywhere and people are building the craziest stuff with this. People are controlling their homes, they vibe code websites, and they even save tons of money on purchasing cars. It is wild what you can do with this, but I'm pretty sure I'm not telling you anything new here. You are here because you want to get in on that as well, and you want to set it up, but probably feel a bit overwhelmed on how to actually do that. So in this video, I'm going to focus on showing you the easiest way on how you can get started with Cloudbot without any of the technicalities, so that you can get in on that fun as well. I'm going to show you exactly how you install it step by step, the difficulties that come along with it in certain setups, and how you can actually host it without relying on your computer. And if you want to learn more about Cloudbot and other latest tools, I highly recommend subscribing to my channel. Now, to get started, it makes sense to quickly explain what Cloudbot actually is. It is basically an agentic system that you can connect to channels, so apps that you already use, that you text with every single day, and you can use it through that interface. As you can see here, we have things like Discord, WhatsApp, Telegram, Slack, etc. And all of them can be connected to Cloudbot, and Cloudbot is basically the brain behind it that can execute things for you, leveraging stuff that's on your computer, on your server, or wherever else you host it. This basically gives you this personal AI assistant, what it is known for. And in today's video, we focus specifically on the easiest setup using Telegram, so that you can use it even from somewhere else as long as your computer is on. Now, I'd say the manual is fairly similar on all the OS systems. In my case, I'm using Mac, so I'm going to set it up on my MacBook. And to do that, you simply head to Cloud.bot and you scroll down here to the quick start section, and you can see in the quick start section this one command, and you are going to copy that. This command is what you then basically drop into your terminal of choice. So you can just open up a terminal. You can also do this with command space and then just type in terminal. This basically opens that terminal as well. And that shows you this little cool box here, which is what you often see in movies, especially some cyber movies. You're going to drop in this command and you just press enter. And now Cloudbot will install automatically for you. This command contains a file, as you can see here. And if we copy this URL and we just drop that into our browser and we hit enter, it downloads a file, and this is the file we can inspect to see what's actually happened inside of the execution commands. Now, this will definitely run a while, so you're simply waiting, and while we are waiting, I'm going to show you quickly what this file does, because you have to understand that you are installing code on your computer. This is if you want to use it locally and you want to give it access to certain things that you have access on your computer. Now, this file is pretty complex, but I want to make you aware that this is what's being executed on your computer, so if you are a bit scared of that, 100% understandable, especially if you don't understand it. So you can leverage things like anti-gravity or cursor to understand what happens in the file and make you aware about the risks and the rewards. Now, after running that command, you will see a wizard similar to this one. This means that you have installed now for the first time, and this is basically the pop-up you see. And because it runs locally on your computer, you have to be aware that there's a risk factor, because it basically has access to commands and can actually do things and interact with your computer. There are some guardrails in place that help you prevent certain file deletions and other issues, but again, it is still incredibly powerful and runs on your computer. Just be aware of that. Now, in our case, we can now control this wizard using our control keys on our keyboard. And if I click left and right, you can see that I can toggle here between yes and no. And we obviously need to set continue here with yes, because we need to be aware that there's a risk factor involved because we installed it locally. Then we can start with a quick start, or you can do a manual one. I highly recommend doing quick start, especially if you're non-technical. Then here you can also choose which one you start. I mean, I already had it installed, right? So I can basically continue with existing values. But to show you how it works, I'm going to reset that and start with a fresh session. I'm going to delete basically everything. And now you can see that we are prompted to choose a model provider. This is basically the LLM that runs the brain of Cloudbot. Now, you can obviously choose the one that you're most comfortable with. In my example, I'm just going ahead with OpenAI because it's very easy. Because we can just use the API key and then basically use it in the Cloud rather than installing a local model, which is a possibility too, but it's way more complex. So I select OpenAI with enter. You can now choose the API key by going one down. I do that, and now you're prompted to enter the OpenAI key. So I'm just going to fetch that from my account. What I'm going to do is I simply head to platform.openai.com. I go here to the settings, or basically to the API keys on the left. Both ways work. And here you're going to click on create new secret. You're going to name it Cloudbot or whatever you want to name it. And I say also set it to restricted. And what we're going to do now is we choose from the list models capability. We can say read, and the model capabilities it says I'm going to set to request. And here you can, by the way, customize it. In my opinion, this is perfectly fine, so I'll just keep it. And this is all you need. I'm going to click here on create new secret, and this is the secret that I'm now going to use inside of the Cloudbot setup. So heading into the terminal, I'll basically push this one in here. And now it's also prompting me the model that I want to use. So again, you can be creative. I recommend anything like 4.1 or 5 is a great model. I would not use the reasoning models in my opinion, at least not from what I've tried so far. I went ahead and tested it with 4.1 because it's one of the models that I often use for voice agents. But again, you can just play around and feel like which one is the most reasonable one for you. I'll just go ahead with 4.1, and now we are prompted to set up a channel. A channel is basically the entry point that you're going to use to communicate with your Cloudbot. But let me also tell you that this is not the only way. Even though you choose a channel there, you will always have access to the web interface, which I'm also going to show you. So in my example, I'm going to use the Telegram setup, so I can show you how to actually set it up in Telegram. So we're gonna click Telegram, and now it's basically trying to go through the Telegram wizard. You can see it now asks us to enter the Telegram bot token, which means we now need to set up a Telegram bot. Again, very incredibly easy. What you are going to do is you open your Telegram, you search for Botfather, and you will see an app like this. You simply click on that, and then here in the chat, you're just gonna type a / and you click on new bot. This will basically now set up a new bot for that specific scenario. And now it will basically just run you through a wizard inside of Telegram where you need to give it a couple of information. Like here, for example, it asks now how we should call the bot. I'm just gonna say Janis Cloudbot test. I'm gonna press enter. Not asking me as well for a nickname. So this is basically the slug that's being used for the bot. So we just call it Janis Cloudbot. I'll press enter and it sets it up. And now you can see as well that we have an access token available here. This is the token that you copy and you hit into your enter Telegram bot token wizard of the Cloudbot. Once you've done that, you will be able to continue basically by pressing enter. Now you can also see that we can configure skills. That is something you can either do now or later. Let's just do yes for now, so I can show it to you. As a preferred node manager, I recommend choosing NPM, at least on my MacBook, that is what I prefer. And here we can also choose now certain skill dependencies. And this is stuff that you want to give it access to. Now, since it's going to be your very first setup, I recommend not using any skills, but you can install them as you want to, because there are other dependencies that may not be able to be installed depending on the Mac version you're on. So in my case, I could, for example, try the Apple nodes because it's cool to have access to Apple nodes. Just keep in mind that you would share them with Cloudbot. So any LLM that is being used after will be able to access that information if Cloudbot wants that. So in my case, I'm just going to press skip for now. So I'll press space on skip for now, and now I'm pressing enter. And once you've done that, you can now see that the dependencies have been set up because we just skipped them. And once you've done that, you will also be prompted to add a Google Places API key. I obviously don't need that. I'm gonna press no here. I'm also gonna press here for local places, and I also don't need to add my Gemini API key right now for Nano Banana. This is in case you wanna generate images and videos. Gonna press no here. And for the 11 Labs API key, it's pretty cool. I would say no for now, just to show you the basic setup, because for the initial features, you don't need it. Now, enabling hooks is something cool. So you can basically update memory automatically. In our case, for the beginning, we don't need it. So I'll press space for skip for now, and I'll press enter. Now you can see I have the gateway service already installed. So I just restart it. For you, you can either reinstall it or skip it, or probably install it the first place if you use it the first time. So I'm just gonna press restart right here, and now the gateway service will restart. And here we go, it just did it. It created the token, and now it also asks us how we want to visit this chatbot. And you can do that in the TUI, or you can do it in the web UI or later. I would suggest using the hatch in TUI. I'm gonna show you as well how that looks like, because it just opens it up for you under your local IP address and a specific port, and you'll now be able to access Cloudbot. Congratulations, until here you have finally set it up. Now you can use Cloudbot already locally or with the API keys that you have set up initially, which means that you can now talk to it and actually give it memory. And to show you that it already works, we can already start talking to it and give it a persona. You see it asks here, hey, I just came online, who am I and who are you? So we can give it some details that it can store inside of its memory file, because it obviously can remember things. Hey, you are Lisa, my personal AI assistant, and my name is Janis. There you go, just wrote me with one S. And once I have that in here, I just press enter, and now you can see that it starts chatting with itself. Now the initial message may take a little bit of time depending on your setup. For me, it's quicker as I've already previously installed it, and it works out of the box. You can see it basically says who it is now, etc. And you can define a couple of more things. I say for now, simply store that in your memory file, because that's all I wanted to do. And once you've done it, you will also see in here that it updates its own memory file, which is pretty cool. And we can also see that it did it for the user MD file as well. MD stands for Markdown. It's basically just a neat way of giving certain meanings via simply text to the LLM or to the AI. So now we have set up the chat, which means this is working. Now the last part is setting up the Telegram chatbot before we are able to chat with it through Telegram. And the way you do that, again, very easy. You simply open your Telegram setup, and right in here where you basically created this token, you have another link for the actual agent. And if you click on it, you can now see that you're in this bot. And all you do is click the start button, which then gets a message that looks something like this. And now once you've got that message, we need to also link it up inside of our channels in Cloudbot, so that we have basically a whitelist, which allows only us as a user to talk to it. Because otherwise you have to imagine that any person who knows this link to your bot can talk to it. So you wanna make sure you whitelist it, and this is basically what Cloudbot helps you with. Now to do that, what we are going to do is we simply copy the Telegram user ID right in here. I'm going to head over here to channels, And in the channels, you will see as well that it connected Telegram. And in Telegram, if you scroll down, you can have this allow from here. So I'm basically just going to click on here. I paste the ID, and at the very bottom, you click on save. Once you've done that, we can now basically copy this other parameter like here, because right now, I think it should still not work if I'm not mistaken. Oh, it's already typing. Nice. Okay, it seems to work. There we go. All right, that was already all we needed, so we don't even need to link the Telegram cord. I think you could paste that basically in the chat and it would work. But your main goal with this was basically just to enable yourself, your user, with this ID so that you can chat to it. So anyone else that you share this bot to has not access to it until you actually add the Telegram user ID. Now that said, it's linked up and you can see as well, we have the same chat in here, and now we can actually start talking to our AI. We can say, who are you? Which now should return a name. It should return Lisa, that is my AI assistant. This is pretty much the whole goal. Then we know we set it up properly. There we go. We can see in the background that it's already streaming it. Here we go. Here's the streaming setup. You can configure streaming, by the way, as well inside of the channel section. You have tons of possibilities in here with the streaming setup, etc. But it works, so you don't necessarily need to take care of it if you don't want to have streaming enabled. So you are pretty much hooked up already and can now use Cloudbot locally with Telegram that you can use from anywhere. As long as your computer is on and works and has an internet connection, you'll be able to use the Cloudbot inside of Telegram. Now, obviously the biggest question is, how do you actually make it functional? How do you actually give it a purpose or turn it into utility that helps you with your productivity? And that is where skills come in. So you can check out here on the site, you have a couple of options, overview channels, which we already know, instances, sessions, cron jobs. You don't need to know much about them. Cron jobs is cool if you want to schedule tasks, but your AI does it for you. So if you say stuff like you want to have a newsletter being sent to you every day at 12 p.m., it can basically do that by scheduling cron jobs. It's just a recurring event. And then we have the skills right here, which is the cool part. This is where we have the possibility of installing local skills. And this, depending on your Mac version, may require updates in certain ways, because what it does is it basically installs more dependencies locally. So basically CLI commands, as you can see here, which is basically nothing else than commands that you can use inside of your terminal. So if there's anything that you would like to leverage, you can either use it from here, basically go through here, check out what integrations they have. They have plenty of them. You can even vibe code your own and even give it custom skills. So you have really, really cool possibilities. If you want to install one, you would basically just click here on install Memo via Homebrew. So Memo is basically needed to manage the Apple nodes. I think in my case, it doesn't work because I'm on an older Mac OS version, but we can try that. Yep, there we go. It fails because I need to upgrade my Mac OS, which I haven't done in my case. So here, for example, you can see it's eligible, which means this one I can install. There are really, really cool skills and GitHub, etc. So you can basically get access to certain tools of yours that you can then leverage inside of Cloudbot, and Cloudbot can interact with it. However, I again want to mention that this runs locally on your computer, so you gotta be aware of the risk that is connected to it. Now, you don't want it to necessarily do whatever it wants, and you have a bit more of controls that you can configure here in the nodes. If you go to the nodes, for example, you can see here the approval section, which is basically what the AI is allowed to do by itself and where it needs your approval. You can see security here. Anything that is basically security related, you want to deny it straight away. Ask, fallback, etc. You can basically tell it what it's allowed to do and what not. So you have a little bit more of granular control on what it's going to do. So this said, you're pretty much set up now and can use it. You can, by the way, also use it from your terminal. So if you go in here and you ask something right in here, who are you? You basically have the same chat setup and it can run directly in your terminal. So it gives you the answer right here, as you can see. So this is all possible. So you have tons of entry points for your channels where you can talk with your Cloudbot and you can start leveraging it now. Now this allows you to play around with it, and I really, really hope it was helpful to you already. If you would like to see more, or how you even deploy that on a server so that it can run continuously 24/7 without you requiring to use your notebook, feel free to drop me a comment below. I'm very happy making a video about it. Or if you want to see anything more in depth about Cloudbot, you're most welcome commenting there as well. And that's all from my side now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.